Hello, everybody. Welcome this September 24th, 2023. Wow, almost out of September. So I have a friend, a very dear friend, who always knows how many days until Christmas. And that might be helpful right now, but it may frighten me just a bit. So, you know what? I really don't like ironing. It's one thing to iron fabric from the bolt and all, it's another thing to iron something that's been made that you have to be all careful. But this is a UFO I'm working on because remember, I said this is the year of the UFO. And I got thinking about it. You wouldn't believe how many projects I start for my kids, telling them I'm going to make this for you. And I realize I get so distracted and busy, I never come back and finish. So I want to make sure that I change that and from never finishing it to just taking a really long time to finish. So I'm going to keep my UFO pledge that I have made. And that's why I like telling you that I'm going to do it. Because if I tell you that I'm going to do it, I'm more likely to do it. So they are just, I am one of these people. Some might say a little bit ditzy. Some might say little tension deficit. But there's so many exciting things in the world that I want to do. And I have always said my whole life that I really wish I had like 6 lifetimes because it would take that much time for me to try to do all the things that I have seen and thought, oh, that would be so cool to do. But anyway, I've almost got this done and then ironing, and then I'm going to come and see who is here. And thank y'all from the bottom of my heart. Mark and I were talking this week about how doing what you love, doing what makes you happy, how it adds to the quality of life. And I know that is absolutely true for me. And I have told most of y'all, I got married at 20, I bought my first house before I was 21, and then started having children a year and a half later. And so my whole life, I have kind of spent in such a rush to grow up. So now that all of the kids are grown and on their own and doing beautifully, I can now spend time on things that I really love. So I'm very grateful. I'm very, very grateful and more committed than ever that I want to get some of this stuff done. So instead of I want a body of work to say, this is what her talent was, or her passion, probably a better way to say was, instead of a whole bunch of bags of unfinished stuff. That's not as good a legacy, you know? But anyway, I don't know how my eyeglasses can get so dusty. I don't know about y'all, but when I wake up in the morning and I wash my face and I brush my teeth, once the water's warmed up, then I take and soap up my glasses because I usually fall asleep with them on. But throughout the day, it's like, what in the world? Now, I understand if I get sloppy with eating and food falls on it, but how can they get so dirty? But here we go. Let's see all who is here. I have had some really cute and sweet posts on some of my former videos, and I am so grateful that somebody takes time to write on them. So if any of you are some of those people, thank you so much. And I try very hard to come back. Hold on. I sit here and go, oh, my hands look really feel more than anything, a little dry. And then I reach over to get some lotion. But I just wanted to say that you guys give so much more back than I could ever give. And like I told Mark, it really makes a good life when you stay focused and busy. You have a job to do, and it's a job that you love. So thank you for being that for me. All right, let's go up to the top. Anne was here first. Hello, Anne. I got some really cute pictures from her. Can't wait to show you. Lisa's here. Hi, sweetheart. We got rain, but no damage from the tropical storm. We were surprised that some wind. There must be there's a hair on my face somewhere, driving me nuts. But we were surprised we got the amount of wind and rain that we did get. But I'm hoping that, like my Katie up on the Eastern Shore, Maryland, I hope she's not getting too much in the way of storm. But I'll have to check that out. It's the coast always gets the worst. How about you, Lisa? Did you get any damage from the sun? From the storm? I went to a lot of trouble to do my nails because you know me, I don't really stand on ceremony, but I went to a lot of trouble to do my nails because, once every year I can grow sort of long nails. Well, then I get busy working on projects. It's like, why do I bother? You can't take me anywhere, I tell you. So anyway, okay, so I hope Lisa is safe. Laura, hi, hon. Oh, you're so cute, Laura. You know what? If it were me, I'd be the same way. I'm lucky that I have to be on camera, so I can't forget. But I love textile talks every Wednesday. And if it weren't for my phone doing a little ditty to remind me, I would forget every week. So I understand. Oh, you know how you lose track of time? You've got a busy mind. And I don't know about y'all, but if I have 5 minutes to spare, I want to do something. I want to create. I was telling Mark last night I was waiting for my fingernails to dry, and I had to find something to do. I couldn't just sit there, watch TV, and wait for my fingernails to dry. I was like, I need to do something. So, in fact, I'll show y'all what I did. I thought I could do this while they dried, and it kind of worked out for me. But anyway, Mark said, you just can't sit still. Nope, I can't. So it's great to see Laura and Bonnie. And what was Anne saying? I love Anne has got such cute, sweet energy. Yeah. I get frustrated when people sit at the stoplight and they have to be looking at their phone. And last night I had to beep the horn for somebody. And it's like, don't make me beep my horn at you, but pay attention, the lights turn. So I don't look at my phone when I'm sitting at the light because I know me. I'd be like lost. All right. So, Sonia, hi, sweetheart. It is so good to see you. Bonnie, and Bonnie, we were so touched by you being now lady. And I forgot though your medieval name, but you've always been a lady to us. So, this is great. Oh, and Lisa, I went ahead and ordered my templates for the Alaska class. Lisa and I have been busy, like gathering patterns, fabrics, all this good stuff. And it's like, what if we weren't quick enough to get one of the top classes? Because, that class closed out fast. And I'm feeling good that we did because we both immediately sent off our registration. But we've decided if we don't get in there into the class normally, that we're going to get together and sew. So either way, we're going to make the Alaska quilt. So I went ahead and ordered the templates. And I'm very frugal. And I thought about making them out of like Luan, which is a very thin plywood. But then you got all the splinters. Then I thought, well, what if I did cardboard? Well, then the edges get kind of smushed. And I thought, well, I could get template plastic, but it's not thick enough. I can't cut acrylic. That you have to have a special way to cut acrylic because it tends to melt before, or shatter if you try to cut it. So I said, Deb, order the templates. So anyway, I have a feeling Lisa has already ordered hers, but if not, maybe she can borrow mine first or whatever. But I tell you what, I'm going to make sure to have everything that I'm supposed to cut out before I go to that class. Because if I can give you one hint, it's if you go to a class or seminar, do what the teacher suggests. Whatever she says to get prepared, do it. Otherwise, you can't listen to the instructions and the hints and tips she's giving while you're busy trying to play catch up. And that's an awful feeling. And you pay money to go to these things. And so make it more relaxing and fun for you. And you'll thank me for this. Now, on the other hand, don't work ahead. I hate it when these people show up at classes and they've done all this work ahead. So while the teacher, tell us how you really feel, Deb. So while the teacher's trying to tell us how to start, they're interrupting and wanting information of how to handle something in the middle. They pull the teacher's attention away, and we are the ones that end up, I feel, getting shortchanged. So I try, as a teacher, I try never letting people have patterns ahead because it is very frustrating. And as a teacher, you're teaching double duty. It's not right. And it's like they're so anxious to have a completed quilt to show by the end of the class. Well, we all think they're a pain in the butt anyway. So what's the point? You're not getting any brownie points. Trust me. We're all talking about you behind your back. Who does she think she is? So anyway, let me finish seeing who's here so I can show you what I've done this week. Oh, gosh. Let's see. Oh, so good to see all of you. Oh, Anne was going to get a snack. Good thing. Chocolate's always the best. I truly believe chocolate makes better quilters. And I'm sticking by that. Teresa Jukovic. Hi, Meltem is here. Hi, sweet Meltem. Oh, thanks. And so let's see. Oh, it is so good to see all of you here. They're all in a big binder of yours. Oh, Anne, I got you beat. I'm somewhere over 100, 160, 138 or 168. So don't do that. So what is she saying? I just ironed. Oh, Teresa, I did not wad it up and throw it to the side. I carefully folded it. But I know what you mean. It's still going to have lines in it, isn't it? That is so cute, Teresa. Regal Rose, it was nice hearing from you this week. Oh, very good. So you changed the VPN to USA and no lagging. Yay, so good to see you. It's so nice. I love this group of ladies. Marsha's here. Polly's here. I love this group of ladies because we remember each other. We welcome each other. Oh, Lisa said she got the templates. Laundry Basket Quilts has some YouTube videos on the blocks I've been watching for cutting tips. Good idea. And there's nothing wrong with watching to see how it's supposed to be made. If you can find a video, just don't do it yet because every teacher has a reason or that she wants to teach certain things in certain orders. And you know what? We pay her for her expertise. Let's see what she's got to offer. I've had some teachers give me a tip that changed my quilting life. That's a joy. That is totally a joy. So, and any of you who took the Bargello class with me in July, you know that when I kept coming in saying, be careful of this, that sure enough, it was going to come up for you. And so you can follow a pattern, but it's the little hints and tips that will make all the difference in your quilting experience. So in fact, I am going to watch, now that you've mentioned that, it reminded me they have one. I'm going to watch it too, because that way I can just be that much more relaxed and ready for the class. So it does look a little complicated, but that's one of the reasons I chose it, because I want to learn something new and something that's tricky enough that I might be afraid to try it on my own. And it looks like a class for, I've got the hiccups. I do this when I get excited and talk too fast, but it looks like it's going to be a more intermediate to expert quilt, but that's okay. I had a brand new quilter. Her first quilt she made was a double wedding ring. And then look at Polly. Oh my gosh. She was like, I'm a new quilter. And I looked at her quilts and thought, how can you be a new quilter? Those are amazing. But do you all remember, to talk about a good memory, can you remember when you started? Oh, Marcia Hone is here. Hi, sweetheart. It is so good to see you. I love seeing. There's Kathy Klein. Oh, Kathy. Oh, you'll have to do it while Lisa and I are doing it, and we'll kind of be there for each other, little pick me up. But do you remember in your journey as a quilter, the first time that you could look at a quilt and start to figure out how they made it? Because I remember looking at quilts going, oh, I have no idea how they did that. But then there was this day that I could look at it and go, oh, that's a 9-patch with flying geese and half square triangles in the corners. And, you could all of a sudden look and it made sense. It was like you could all of a sudden you could speak the language. You understood the language of quilting. And that's always a special moment. In some ways, it loses a little bit of magic, but in other ways, you can look and say, I can do that. I can do that. So that's really nice. Sewing with Nancy taught you. Yeah. Oh, Sewing with Nancy. Eleanor Burns. I learned a lot from her. Alex Anderson's show was when it was on HGTV. That was a real big learner for me. Yeah, the language of quilts. That's good, Ann. So that's when you realize Bonnie says, yes, when you realize you don't have to look at the whole quilt, but narrow your focus until you try to find the block. Because in so many quilts, there is a block. And once you find that, then it's like, So we still have, where did I watch Nancy? Oh, YouTube has some Nancy Zeman shows. And bless her soul, what a dear lady. Talk about generous and wonderful, excellent teacher. So, okay. So while I was telling you that I was waiting for my fingernails to dry, And that's why I've never been really good at beautiful fingernails because I'm so impatient. It's hard to sit. Got to wait for the first coat to dry and then wait longer for the second coat to dry. And I'm like, so here is what I did while I was waiting. Okay. I took some of the paper beads that I had made recently and I had already trimmed the ends. So let me show you some of these. Wow, the silver on the end didn't go as thick. Oh, that one looks good though. What I do now, I finally figured out when I first started making paper beads, I would take markers and try to color the end and just down inside. Well, it used up markers so fast and it was slow. Then I tried getting a metallic tape that you wrap around part of it. So as you roll it up, it gives it a nice metallic edge. Then I tried some of those little, what are they called? You know, the round circular things you put in. You normally would kind of use a press. Oh, come on, Deb. Snaps, use them. You put them on curtain rods. Put them on curtains so that curtain rod will go through. But anyway, I tried some of those, but they're expensive. And then look, this is just silver paint. And I take and I put silver paint on a little grommets. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Oh, thank you for helping me because I get on here sometimes and the word just flies right out of my brain. But the grommets are expensive. So then, and you have to make sure you have the right size grommet for the right size hole. Oh, Jody is here. Happy Sunday, beautiful lady. So now I take a nice metallic paint, acrylic metallic, and I spread it on a piece of plastic, spread it thinly, and then take the paper bead, dip it in the paint, kind of turn it. And sometimes I have to give it a little blow on the end, to break the bubble. But that way you get a finished look cheaply, easily. So let me show you some. Here are some more that have the silver finishing. Let me tell you what I love when I get their circular. Now, if anybody from there sees this, they'll make sure I don't get them anymore because I can't afford their furniture. But I love their flyers. Aren't these pretty? These are from Ethan Allen. These are from an Ethan Allen flyer, kind of like a little mini catalog magazine. And the colors, and this is why I love them, because I know that they are going to roll up to make beautiful, beautiful beads. Isn't that something? You can see now these have to be coated with a sealer, which will give them a beautiful shine. But these, can you imagine wearing that with a tan or green blouse? It's really pretty. And I love that they're kind of they have that neutral look. So here's another one. It's just, the colors in Ethan Allen are just my kind of colors. So I just think that is so pretty. And you know what? I use junk mail for the most part. Now these I printed out. I bought or got them free or bought them and printed them out on old copy paper that had something like, print. Dogs, hush. And had like a misprint. And so I printed these out, cut them, and rolled them. And these are going to be really pretty once I put some sealer in them. But I just thought I would show you. I thought I would show you these beads. And with using the silver paint on the end, wonderful. All right. Well, enough of that. I could sit here all day. I don't know why paper beads make me happy, but they do. And I think it's because I'm I used to hate throwing some of the junk mail away. And used to hate throwing that junk mail away because it was just going in a landfill to sit forever. And I'm the kind of person, okay, I have a quest for you. I love eating natural pistachios. That shell, that pistachio shell is really cool. So if you can think of something to do, because I hate throwing those shells away, it seems like a waste. So if you can think of what to do with pistachio shells, let me know. All right, I'm going to go back to talking about the UFO before I show you our new holiday things and our triptych that I'm working on. Okay, so this quilt that I'm working on, I was thinking about another UFO, but this was right there, and I looked down and went, "Oh, you've been working on that, so that's a good thing." Oh, here it is too. I said, "I'm missing one of the rows." I just found it. It was in the bag where one thing that I do that's really good, save bags, clear plastic kind of bags. I think this is a Jenny Beyer bag. Yes, this is. And I put a project, everything I use for the project, sometimes even the thread, everything for the project, including the instructions, go in that bag. That way I can pick up a bag and work on it. And that's, to me, a really good tip. So this is the Alex Anderson neutral quilt. And it's upside down. One moment, please. So here is the Alex Anderson Neutrals quilt. And I know she started this like 2 years ago at least. And I love this quilt. I love it. And it's so classy. I'd love to think that I'm classy, but I'm not. I'm a bright cotton candy kind of gal. But this gives me a chance to pretend I'm, classy and subtle and all that. While I'm talking to you about this, Alex Anderson said, so all of your rows before you put the applique flowers on, because she said it will drive you crazy if they don't match up all the way across. Well, I wanted to do the applique by hand, and I didn't want to have to clutch all this fabric to get to the middle row. So I appliqued them while they were just a single row. She said, you won't be able to match them up. And I thought, I'm smart. I laid the rows of fabric out and marked them with tailor's chalk so that once I did the applique, I could put them right back together with my registration marks. Well, some registration marks like that's pretty good. I'm hoping I'm showing it to the right place. But some registration marks, some of these are reasonably close, but this one is not. Let me find a real good one that really messed up. This, let me see. Some of them are just way off. Wow, they're not as bad as I thought they were. When I first started pinning this together, I thought, oh my gosh. But I tried putting registration marks where the rows meet. Here's one that's off. You see this one? And I couldn't make them fit. Also, what I'm noticing is my flower rows are shorter than my pieced rows. Let me show you. You see this? And I can't just trim the quilt even. Every single one is shorter. So somewhere I messed up. Maybe on the piece rows, I used less than 1/4 of an inch seams, which made the whole thing bigger. Maybe my hand applique of the flowers scrunch the fabric a little, which it will when you do any hand sewing on something. That's why we usually back everything with fusible interfacing if you're going to do thread painting, hand stitching, whatever. But what I'm going to do, I cannot just trim them even. If I do, I'll lose the point up here. So I'm just going to add a little piece of fabric to the bottom. And in a way, it makes me sad, but I'm never going to enter this in a show. I start every quilt hoping I make it so good I could enter it in a show. Not even halfway through, I have to give that dream up. So I think I'll just, carefully take this loose, carefully put in a little strip, make sure the stem goes all the way down. But when I was looking at this, I said, something's wrong. You shouldn't have flowers hanging out on the end here. I need another piece row, and I just found it in the bag. So anyway, and I numbered the rows 1, 2, 3, 4. I tried everything to keep them so that I could line them back up. Because when Alex said that, I knew she knows what she's talking about, for goodness sake. But then there's another thing that I did, which really helps make it less noticeable. I loved the petals drooping a little. So instead of making them perfectly straight out, I let some droop. I kind of did them a little off kilter. Higgledy-piggledy, I think is a good term for it. And that way it gives them a look of whimsy that some droop more than others. See, look at this. This really droops. So I'm hoping that's, yes. In fact, you can go to the quiltshow.com, go to the live feeds, go back a couple years, and you can see them. But this is fabulous. I love it. So I've got to put that other row on there. Now, let me show you the picture of the quilt. It is warm down here today. I think it's a little humid out, but this is a picture of the quilt. Okay, so I've done all of my rows, and I have the fabric cut out for my inner border. But guess what I have to do now? I have to do those outer borders. So the good news is most of the flowers are already made. And these were done using Nadine's applique tools. These were done with freezer paper and then tucked over and glue sticked. So most of the flowers are done. But, and here I have the inner border. The outer borders are cut, starched, and pressed. I need to mark them. But then I realized I've got to make stems. And I remembered having to cut these stems on the bias. Okay. Now these stems are straight cut. These are bias cut. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I thought it would make it much easier to pre-prep all of this. In fact, I did it when I went camping a year ago. I sat outside with Mark and just made them all and then glued and stitched, I believe. I'm hoping I stitched them. Yes, I stitched the center flowers. See how they can kind of pop up? But I stitched them with, and I'm really proud. I don't think you'll see much in the way of my stitching. I've gotten pretty good at it, honestly. Pretty darn good at that. So And I can compliment myself because I tell you all my boo-boos. So yeah, but anyway, so what I did, I've got to make all that stem. And I did cut this on a bias. And by cutting it on a bias, normally when fabric comes, I was hoping to find here we go. Here's a piece of fabric with the selvage on it. This is the warp. This is the weft, okay? The warp are all the first threads that get loaded onto a loom. The weft is the pretty decorative threads that run on the shuttle, run back and forth in and out of the warp threads. And that's how you get a weave. And the selvages are where when the weft comes over here and they get ready to put the shuttle back in the loom, it goes around the fabric and back. And that's why you get this really firm selvage edge. Now, so this is fabric's really stable on the warp. The warp is the strongest thread. It's pretty stable on the weft. Where it's not stable is right 45-degree angle. Look at that. You see that? Okay, that's what's called the bias. Now, everybody thinks bias is a bad word. It's not a bad word. It's just something, little allergy. Okay, but it's just, bias can be used for good. It's wonderful to use as your binding fabric when you have a scalloped or curved edge quilt. You can use it for your binding. It's also wonderful if you want to make a dance skirt so that when you spin, it flares out. If they cut that fabric, taking advantage of that bias, so they have to cut it at a 45-degree angle, then it flares. It's amazing, okay? Because it and the weight of it can kind of help it flare out. Now, if you're an excellent seamstress, you liked skirts that were cut on the bias because you could really get a pretty finish, but you would have to hang it there, let it hang for a couple days to a week to let any stretching it's going to do finish stretching before you hem it. If you tried to hem it right away, it would end up like this. So the bias can be your friend, but for quilters, it scares people. And that's why if you do paper piecing, leave all the paper on until the entire square has sewn into place. I mean, has a block here, 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 everything. It's totally encased. Then you can take the paper off because you never know where that biased edge is hiding. Now, for this stem that I'm making for the quilt, it has to curve up and down. It has to be all nice and flowy. Well, you can't do that with straight cut. That's when you start getting puckers and gathers and it stretches too hard here. If you try to bend a straight stem cut on the straight of grain, it will end up warping the fabric it's laid on because it doesn't want to. It's like, I don't bend that way. But when you get bias, it bends because look at that. Do you see that stretch right there? So it can bend without getting all, freaked out. So what I did, I made this using a square. I think they said a square 22 inches maybe. That made all of this bias trim. And there, if you want to know how to make that, look on YouTube, look how to find how to make easy bias trim. And you'll see the way, but you end up and you have to mark the lines and you end up cutting and it just comes all off together. Now, one of the problems is when you do it the way you had to stitch it together, turn the fabric, stitch it together, it has odd seams. So let me show you where it's joined, and it's joined at an angle, and some, depending on how they were joined, you can, I thought I saw a piece that had one angle going that way and another angle going that way. So it can be a little tricky. Well, I've got an ironing bar in here. What I did is I took it and pressed it in half, and then I came along and sewed a little seam about in between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch all along. Okay. I mean, you might be able to see it better this side. Okay. Now what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to push this ironing bar. It's one of the nylon ironing bars. So it's like a clear white or translucent white plastic. And what I do is I put the seam allowance on the back. I come along the top and iron it, and it keeps me from burning my hands. But I've noticed sometime where the seams come together, it is a pill getting it through. And the other day, I almost had a tantrum. And here's what my ironing bar looks like. You can get them in metal too, but they take a long time to cool and you can burn your hands. But I had to end up making a hole to get this thing out because I just couldn't get it to move past. And it's got enough room. But what happens when you make this is you've got that seam allowance. And so when you're trying to push it down the thing, it gets hung up in the seam allowance. And I was in an impatient mood. So if we have time left today, we'll chat and I'll try to work on this. But anyway, so that's my UFO. And sorry if I gave you tips and tricks and you already know that stuff. Sorry, I always think speak to somebody who might be new to all of this. And then that way I'm being good. So I told you I would every week. Now, next week, I'm going to try to do something for Halloween. I love crafting. This week, I'm still working on what to do with toilet paper rolls. Oh, and Cheryl Hogan is here. Hi, sweetheart. Hi. Okay, so what to do with toilet paper rolls. And I'm real lucky to have these. I'm trying to think of what kind. Cottonelle. Cottonelle is what Mark buys now. And so they're nice because they're white. You can still use them if they're brown, but you have to prime them first. So this is the last week of what to do with toilet paper rolls. Because honestly, I have no more ideas, okay? So here is one idea. And you should have seen when I first painted it. It was a dark brown with the black background. And I painted yellow eyes. And I don't know where I got the idea to make these kind of antlers. Mark said, that looks like a devil reindeer. And with the yellow painted eyes, yeah, it did. So I came down, I painted it lighter, got a button for the nose, and got some googly eyes because nothing looks too scary with googly eyes. So here is a reindeer you could make. And I'll say it back here. Here is an angel. And, you know, sometimes I try too hard to do things realistically. I need to loosen up and practice cartooning. But I had her face painted on. I can see now it's coming through. I'm going to have to paint it again. She didn't look right with a painted face. I said, no wonder angels, for the most part, angels have no face. So, and I took the toilet paper, made a ring for her halo, and attached it with this little stick to the back. And then she is one toilet paper roll, and then I opened up another one and cut it into her wings. And ready? I love this one. He's so cute. And this is a toilet paper roll that I made a hat out of. And after I painted it, when it was mostly dry but still a little soft, I smushed in the hat to make it look cute. And I painted his nose and his stick arms. These are little beads for his mouth. And then I took a little bit of this fluff and put it around him to remind you, yes, he's a snowman still in the snow. But I love the little hat. And he's everything except the beads and eyes are from toilet paper rolls. Let me put him there. Then, you ready? Here's the old man himself. Here is my Santa. And except for the fuzz and the googly eyes, he is all toilet paper roll. And you know what I did to get the fuzz? I took a white puffball and cut it. When you cut them, they kind of explode. So then I took the fuzz from the puffball and made the Santa. So there is Santa. So Mark said, do they look a little childish there? And I said, oh, well, see, then I'll just say, hey, it's for you to do with your grandkids. But I think they're a little cute, and I'll find some little place for them. But they're toilet paper rolls. So we're not going to worry whether they're expert or not. Now, there's one other thing I was thinking of telling you, and you can don't flatten these too sharply, but you could always cut rings, paint them all Christmas colors, and make garland. So I have about 6 additional toilet paper rolls. And I guess you could say we're full of something. But you can take and cut these into rings. And then you can paint them pretty colors. And you would have to do this. You're going to have to kind of cut them to get them to be able to fit inside of each other. But just have some clear tape them back together. And you could make... My last hint or tip, I would paint them and do like if you want to do glitter, do that before you put them together. And then just put a little tape across, and you can use these to make a garland. And with the white, since I do a blue and white tree, maybe the white's good enough. Because sometimes I get like, okay, I've painted enough, I'm done. So anyway, there you are. I love it, Laura. Laura said you could make a nativity. You could make a Joseph and Mary and baby Jesus to put on the back of the toilet cover. I love that. She said bathroom counter, but I'm thinking on the toilet. What's more appropriate? Oh, that is so cute. Gift card holders. If you didn't have them too big, they could be napkin holders. That's another thing. Yeah, cut one of those rolls in half, paint it real pretty, and make a napkin ring out of it. And on the napkin ring, you can put the person's name for the holiday meal. Like it. All righty. So that's the last of the toilet paper rolls. There will be no more toilet paper rolls, I promise. Next week, I'm doing something with cheesecloth. So I'll show you what that is next week. And it's going to be for Halloween, because we can't forget Halloween. All right. Now, next, I want to talk about our Thursday project. Our Thursday, Art Quilt Thursdays, Thursday at 7:30 Eastern Time, we are doing a portrait quilt. And these are my gorgeous grandsons. Donnie and Russell, my gorgeous, gorgeous grandson. This is my pattern page. I did a terrible job Thursday night trying to explain how to posterize these and how to get the color variations. I did it, but I had a harder time explaining it than I thought. And Jody did her best to try to help me. Luckily, I hope any of you, if you belong to our group, I put the files with her exact writing and photos so that you would have better luck figuring out what to do by reading hers than by trying to listen to me. I got off the computer and I was sad. I said, Mark, it was the worst show. I could not remember what I had done, figured out how to tell them what I had done. And I'm a hunt and peck type of computer person. He'll say to me, well, what have you done to get here? And I'll go, I don't know. And he gets frustrated. It's like, how do you not know? Because he's a very linear brained person. He's more like an engineer. So there's steps and there's a process and you do this, and this. And our Miss Jody is that way too. She's so smart. But I'm not that way. And I am smart, but it's in a visual, creative way. And I'm not blessed to be able to do the super creative and the super analytical, the logical. I don't do that well. So I told him, I am just not that good at it. And I apologize. It's the way it is. And what I do on a computer, I decide what I want to do on the computer, and I just kind of play with everything until I figure out how to make it work, which means it takes me a long time. And I'm usually pretty exhausted by the time I get there. But I am sorry. That's the best I can do. It's just it's not in my wheelhouse. And so when I got off, I was frustrated. He said, Deb, it's okay. You can't be good at everything, and that's for sure. But I do have the instructions. If you don't belong to our group, but you still want the instructions, or you don't want to join our group, but you want the instructions, I will send them to you. So real quick, while I'm thinking about it, let me type in. Anytime I start to type in my email, if you remember it and you want to type it in for me, go for it. Let me see. Here we go. So, our time. Oh, thank you, sweetie. My main problem is it's hard for me to type in our time to quilt. Hard for me to talk and type in the email, quilt@twc.com. And I will, Lisa, if you're good at computer and file work, definitely, because I've been really leaning on Miss Jody, and I feel bad for that. She doesn't deserve to have me picking her brain that much, you know? So, but here is my pattern. I was able to reverse it before I print it. I was able to get it stylized like this, so it has 6 levels of color, and that color intensity. Tint, and if it's darker, it's tint. If it's lighter, it's hue. And but anyway, so I've got 6 colors in the faces and hair of each of the boys. And what I've been doing this week, I went through and marked them all, one for the lightest, and then on up to 6. So you see how I've numbered them. So I've gotten that done, and then I'm sitting down to work on the pattern pieces. And this is a little scary how to do this. I have a feeling Miss Jody puts the whole page down, draws the pattern as it shows, because she's smart enough. I want to make sure that my number 1 pieces, wherever they abut a number 2 or higher, I want them to go under that. I'm really trying to do it Miss Jody's way, because this is an important piece for me, and Miss Jody knows the very best way. So what I did is I'm just doing them all separately, and that way I know I put the dotted line is the extra seam allowance where it has to go under a darker piece. So I got all of this, and I've got probably 2 more sheets of patterns to go. And this is Steamosine 2. It's done reversed. So right here, I will take off the back paper, put it on the back of the fabric. That way, when I go to turn it over, it'll be the right way. So far, I think I'm doing good. And yeah, I'm really excited to see. I have the instructions on our site. We're doing it every Thursday night. We're doing it together. And I do apologize that I'm not computer savvy enough to tell you. In fact, people say, oh, how do you do all this? I don't know. I used to think I'd love to teach EQ8 until I realized I only know this much of EQ8. I'm the last person you want to learn that from. So now we're going to go to, after this, we'll check out show and tell. But right now, I want to show you my progress on the Triptych. And this is a fascinating process, and I'm getting much better at it, and I'm going to share the tricks with you that I have learned. That's why I kind of like doing things ahead of y'all so that I can go, okay, what is she making the bed? Oh, that's my Grommy. Yeah, he has to dig and all this, you know. It's so cute. They say the average dog would like to make a bed in the tall weeds, tall grasses or weeds. So they circle around, they scrumph it up, and they want to make a nice thing with the tall weeds hiding them so they feel safe. I watch that all the time in those silly dogs, but that's my Grommet. He's a good boy. Grommy, you a good boy? Oh, he's asleep. I'm going to let him sleep. All right. He loves coming down here when I do my show because I talk so happy and he loves my happy voice. So he always waits around on Sunday afternoon like, are you ready? Is it time yet? All right. So here is, I'm almost halfway there. Here is my Triptych quilt. The upper red stripe is the evening sky, the light from the setting sun. The blue is the sky. Then below that is orange from the setting sun. And then this is a yellow from the setting sun. The setting sun is a very pale yellow. Then a regular orangey yellow is coming through here. And what's interrupting it is the purple mountains. So here it is. And I am loving making this. I'm thinking now that I'm going to, instead of doing 12 rows, I'm going to do 13. If I do 13, my middle section can be bigger instead of all 3 being the same. And I'm kind of a symmetrical kind of gal. So I'd like that middle to be a little bit wider and the ones on each end are a little smaller. But here is, and I'm hoping that the mountains are going to be pretty cool. But I'm having to make red, blue, orange, yellow, purple. Did I say orange? Yeah. And then a lighter sun color because I wanted that lighter than anything else. And then I'm going to have to do a moon color. So the moon's going to be on the far side. Okay. Let me figure out how I can tell you how I did this to give them hints because I went through like right here in the old one. I don't like that. So I'm going to have to take some fabric and hand applique it there. That's what this is because this doesn't match up good enough. So I'm going to hand applique these here to make sure that my sun is more perfectly a circle. Okay. Now, then, so you have to make a bunch of these paper pieced blocks. And I have a free pattern for these that I drew up. And once I'm done with this, I'll be able to tell you exactly how many to make with which color. Now, I loved the original, pardon me, I'm hiccuping again. This is not the original, but see the curved lines? I just love that flowing line effect. So when I first started doing it, I had a really rough time. But then when it got to these last two rows, I've gotten much better at figuring out how to do it. And what I do is I take a chalk marker and I say, okay, this color right here, this is blue with a little bit of orange to show the orange track of the orange sky. And so what I do is take my blue block and I draw with a chalk pen, something that I know I can brush off, whatever, it won't stay. I draw the line where this is supposed to go. And then if it's just a small piece, I might just put a single piece in there to cover this instead of wasting part of an entire orange block. But I just then, even if this is part of that or like be a bottom piece, I cut the same shape, but add 1/4 inch to it for right here. And then I flip it up right sides together and stitch just inside. Like if I put the line here, then I stitch. Now this is where I get a little confused. This is where it can be very tricky. You need to take account seam allowance. So I'm sewing right along here. So the line probably came to about here, or did it come, maybe it came to here and then I sew. No, the line was up here and I sewed just inside because I knew I had to have a seam allowance, okay? So anyway, I ended up, let me find another one. Here's another one. Instead of wasting part of a yellow block, I just got a strip of it and put it there. And I'm learning now that when I see it come in, then I take this red and I start marking where it's going to come in, where it's going to go out. And it looks like I still have a little piece to tack on there, but I'm getting much, much better about it. And so here is part, if I use part of a yellow block to give a little blip one place, then I will come back and add that, use the other part of the block I already cut and put it in the missing space. So like I don't make sure that this block is cut exactly the way here because you would end up losing a whole yellow block. So, and I don't think your eye really pays attention to that. So like right here, I knew this red was going to come across here. So I laid the block. I saw how much this was. I drew a line up here just to show the angle to go, but I sewed right along that and then flipped it back this way. And then after I do that, I sew it and flip it, I cut off the excess here. Whoops. I cut off the excess here because normally this block went down to right here. So I cut off the excess once I iron it and know it's working. Now, I had some tricky ones, like right here. To try to do the jaggedy curved mountain was tricky. To put this piece on was really tricky because it's curved. What you have to end up doing is taking off the paper because the paper doesn't want to let you bend and stretch. You know, it wants to hold the bias into shape. So I took the paper off of it. And then that way, by carefully moving, sewing a little bit, stretching it a little bit, sewing a little bit, and then ironing the fudge out of it. So I did a lot of heavy ironing, like this curve right here. Oh, this was tricky. But see how I took the paper off? And that way I could sew. I took the paper off so I could sew up on this curve And then I make sure to cut off any excess so that the block measures the same. And then I press that iron on, boy. I really do a good job of pressing. Now, where this one doesn't quite meet, I'm going to let that be because it's a great way to have a nice jaggedy mountain. I don't want the mountain to be too sweet and soft and thoughtful. I want it to like get your attention. So I'm really enjoying this, and I think that once I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, I even lowered my stitches by point four, no, I instead of 2.4, I did 2.0. And in some places where it was really tricky, I went lower. So because you're really asking this fabric to give a lot. Another thing, I was afraid when I tried to go around some of these curves, when I have to sew them together, I have to try to force them to line up. And normally, well, you just make sure they all finish off at 3 inches. And then when you sew them, it's perfect. But when you're adding pieces and stuff to it, sometimes it can get a little kludgy. So what I did is I forced them to match up the best I could. And because it's a paper piece project, they were easy to force. I think because it's different pieces coming together, and I didn't have the puckers that I thought I would have. So, and pin, pin, pin to make sure that you're trying to get it, lined up as good as possible. So I'm going to really like this. And I guess this will be one, I guess I might just start the whole next section. And but I keep this right beside me so that when I do the next row, vertical row, I can double check to see exactly where did that red swipe through. So I make sure it lines up good. But anyway, so the first section is done. I think I'll make the second section and make it. Now, wait a minute. No, this can't be the first section. If it's going to be 13, I've made this too big because 13 divided by 3 divided by 2, it'd be, 6.5. All right. So each section is like 4, 4, and then 5 for the center. So I'll take 2 of those off, have a section. That's how I'll do it. Because, I could keep going, but I don't want to. I think I've done enough paper piecing for a while. I love everything when I first started. It's, trying to be excited after the 100th paper piece square. That's where it gets hard. All right, let's go see. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, when I go to move this thing, I'm so silly. Oh, come on. Okay, I thought I got it. All right, here we go. Let me bring the arm down in place so we can see what you have sent. And thank goodness Miss Ann is keeping me plied with tons of. Oh, Pat is here. Hi, Pat. Hello, darling. Oh, Charlene Lawson's here. Oh, my goodness. I need to take a breath every once in a while so I can see who else is here. Ah, so good to see you. Okay, let's go look at some photos. Whoops. Whoop. No, not that. Come on. Get back up. There we go. All right, I meant to go into this. Okay. I was trying to, there's something on my screen. But okay, let me show you this really quickly. Um, here where this was the photo where I finally, and I don't know if I did it by doing it cartoon in one thing or whether I did it grayscale and how many, I wander around trying to figure out what I'm doing. This was the picture we started with. Now, reversing it, let me see if I can find that one. Let me see. I had to reverse it to put Russell facing the other way. Oh, I don't know. Let me see. Oh, and here are Miss Jody's wonderful instructions. And I've got these on our website in the file, and I think it's under Barcella. No, not Barcella, pardon me. It's under Portrait Art Quilts. So here's the first page of her stuff. And then, oops, this is the list of things to do. Pardon me a second. The second one of hers is this one right here. So she gives wonderful instructions, and without me trying to translate the instructions, oh, I can't take that off. I thought this was something I opened up, but look at this. Isn't this great? So these are instructions. My little dog's upstairs. Mark's out for a bike ride, and my little dogs upstairs are barking at everything that moves. Okay, let me close this out. All right. So now I think at one point I separated Russell because I thought I had to do that to enlarge it. But then Mark said, oh, look, hon, if you do it in paint, you can isolate it. Okay, is this a PDF file? I finally figured out how to make a PDF file. Thank you, Miss Jody. And so anyway, I think this says edited black and white. Oh, that's where I found out how to take the most of the background out. Okay. All right, so that gives, and you can see how many different files I had to make to track my progress because I don't know what I'm doing. And so I just, and oh, to make the pattern, I lightened the copy. I made sure to still keep all 6 levels, but I lightened it so I wouldn't use so much black ink. And as it was, I still printed out about 30 too many pages. So, oh, brother. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the beginning and let's go see. Oh, I know what I want to show you. Hold on just a second. I want to show you the triptych. I'm hoping I've got the inspiration photo here. Here it is. This is the inspiration photo that I used to make the triptych, and I've changed things. I drew the curves freehand, so mine are different. I put the sun here, I'm gonna put a moon there, and I put a line of mountains. But I saw this, whoever made this is absolutely gorgeous. And it just inspired me. So there we go. All right. Now, let's go see what, oh, Alexis, that's right. Got to show Miss Alexis. She loves Transformers, and I think she belongs to different groups who do the Transformer things, and she decided she wanted to design her own, and by using hand embroidery. Boy, does she do a great job. And I'm so happy. She's a busy young woman, and I'm so happy when she shows up and shows us her latest work. It is a joy to see. And this is all done by hand, and she does an amazing job of it. And a lot of these, like I said, she designs them too. Look at this one. Isn't that neat? Let me see how to bring up my bar again. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Okay. I love these. We've really been here watching her develop her style. Here are two more that she's already been designing. Okay, that might, yeah, I think that's it for this, but boy, did she do a good job. Okay, so let's see who's next. Miss Ann. All right, Miss Ann got excited. Hold on, drop this off. Miss Ann got excited about all of this paper piecing, and look how good she did at it. I mean, just watching me a little bit, she just learned it and has done a beautiful job. Another one of her quilts, her bird. And don't worry if I go a little fast. On things we've seen several times before, I might zip it up because I want to show them your new stuff. She's been practicing with her ink tints. And she talked about, what if we made some lampshades? Wouldn't that be interesting? Fabric painting and hand embroidery. So I think we'll put that on our one day we're going to do that to-do list. Because that's really neat. She ordered some invisible thread, and when it got there, she realized that Amazon took it very literal. That is invisible thread. And hopefully she was able to let them know there was no thread on one of those spools. Isn't that cute? I know she had a good laugh with that one. Look at this beautiful rose that she painted with her ink tints. And look at this. And she just sat down and drew. And I love it. She's got a very good artistic eye and doing good practice. Now she has decided she wanted to design her own triptych. And she's doing it, although she's never mind, it's not going to be a triptych. It's going to be her art quilt. And because she doesn't want to cut it, and I don't blame her. You don't have to cut anything you don't want to. All of this is your art. You do it. Wait, makes your heart happy. And then she's cutting out some cute fabric things to work on a fall quilt or a Halloween quilt. And look at this. I love her drawing. That is just wonderful. So she's really doing some good practice. And I know soon she will have, I said, okay, I think you're ready to move to fabric. And so I made sure she did have the fabric ink tints, and she did. So, okay, I'm going to, some of the ones we've seen before, I might kind of edit what I show you, but they're wonderful. But we'll get some new ones anytime you have a chance. If you haven't shown it to us, send it on in and we will enjoy it. This is worth an encore. I love BB's hand crocheted tablecloth. Gosh, that's beautiful. That's the way to make lace. Amazing. In fact, I said I was going to some point work on lace making. I still need to do that. All right, let me find. Okay, here is the beautiful black work that our own Bonnie makes. Isn't that amazing? And then Bonnie went to an area SCA meeting, and that is Society of Creative Anachronisms, I believe. And so that's a symbol of theirs on the back of a clipboard. And her friend Dan and Hassan, I think they nominated her for the work she's done for their group, and she was given an award. And they said, sorry, we were afraid to surprise you, but, and I think it's so sweet. So they're just showing different tools of the trade and beeswax, and I guess these are different inks and paints. And, how can you recreate things that you would use back then? That's really neat. Okay, and then here are some weaving. I assume that members of the group made these things themselves. And this is a way to make capes for ties to outfits and decorations. And this is 4 harness woven. Then here's a picture of this piece showing the loom I guess it was made on. So how wonderful to be able to enjoy all of this work. And how wonderful to revive crafts and arts that maybe haven't been done that way for 500 years. Here is a little stand showing the herbs that are good to use and have around when you're making the food. And I love just the way they took the care to make the background for this. That is so neat. All right, here are caps, women's accessories. Aren't they beautiful? So it's a lot of handwork that can be done when you're recreating historic clothing. Here is Dan. This is Miss Bonnie's friend who got her into doing work with the SCA. I think it's wonderful. And here is Dan, and I think the one man is Hassan, and I'm hoping I'm saying his name right. But they're in costume at the day's event. Okay. And here inside, this is set up for the awards and the meeting. And here, a lot of people in costume. And here's Miss Bonnie. And she was a little worried that her hair wasn't fixed just right because she didn't know she was going to be brought up front to get an award. But I think she looks grand and like she's having a wonderful time. Here is her award that was given to her. I love this. Okay. And then here is some of her work that I've shown you in the past, which we just love. Can't wait to see more progress. All right. Thank you, Miss Bonnie. Now we're going to go to... Oh, I don't think I have much. Let me see. Oh, come on. I don't think... No, I don't think I really do. I saved a few things that I might want to work on, but no, I don't have enough to show you. All right. Whoops, sorry about that. Let me go back to the photos. Okay. Okay. Debbie, I love this quilt. We'll show you this one. Everybody's been so busy over summer, but I know that when we get back into our sewing routine, we'll get some more show and tell. Let me see. Dolores. Oh my goodness. Dolores goes to different arts and craft fairs and sells her work. She is such a good artist, so very talented. And so these are all 3x3 mini portraits, or not portraits, works of art. And look at this, all really beautifully done. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into that. And then I'm going to show you how she sets these little mini works of art up. Look at that bear. Look at the texture in that bear. Look at that possum. I tell you what, it looks real. She sets them up on these little tiny easels and sells them. So look at that goldfish. Look how it comes out from the work of art. It's just beautiful. And I think I figured out that that is a manatee, and it's absolutely precious. So anyway, but look at the creative, what she put the little work of art on and then fluffing the edges. That is the beauty of an artist. So beautiful work, Miss Dolores. Oops, I didn't mean that to happen. Let me put it back up there. Okay. I mean to click on that. Oh, Miss Jody's. I love this. Thanks to your suggestions, she's now working on her next matinee monster. And you can tell who it is, and it's wonderful. And I love how she puts these on her design wall or design table and then lays the different parts in. So now she's got to work on what she's going to do with the background. But look at the Chrysler building. Look at the small biplane. Look, I just love it. I love her work. So talented. She is our master portrait artist. Okay. Now, Joni, one last time for Joni's beautiful quilt. There it is. Her wonderful Bargello. I hope she's very proud of herself because that's a beautiful quilt. Kathy Klein, last time we're going to see Kathy's Bargello. So beautiful. And by the choice of your fabrics, it determines the entire look of the quilt. Beautiful, hon. Okay. Let's see who's next. Mary, yes. Mary has something here. And here was her Bargello. And I think it was called First Date. There's the back of it. I love her curved quilting. First Date. Look at her first quilt that she found. Isn't that gorgeous? This is what I'm telling you. It's amazing what people will choose for their first ever quilt and how beautifully she did that. This is another quilt she's working on. So these are all lovely. And she quilted this, hand quilted it, using a tray table holder to support the weight of the quilt while she quilted it. Isn't that cute? I love it. All right. And now, Marcia, our newest Marcia. We have a Marcia Hone, as well as our Marcia Florum. So look at her cute puppy, her Maltese. I'm hoping he's feeling a little better. He's very old and just been a little under the weather lately. So we're thinking of you, Marcia Hahn. Wonderful doggy coat with the sweater cowl. Oh, I love that. And then look at this beautiful bed runner. Isn't that wonderful? And her colors are so good. Isn't that beautiful? And that just makes you stop and realize that is so striking. But it's an abbreviated log cabin. But look, just the center stone, you might want to call it. It's just very beautiful and effective. So remember that when you're quilting. It doesn't always have to be big or exciting to be very dramatic. All right. And I got Myrtle Beach Quilt Party. Let me see. I think we're just about out of photos here. We're not seeing. Yep. I'll just show one more time, Miss Sonia's. It's beautiful. And this is what a master technician's quilt looks like. It is absolutely exquisite. And she quilted that huge quilt on her domestic. Pretty impressive. All right. I'm going to come back to us. Let me make sure that let me drop this down because I can't see you when I'm showing the pictures. So let me make sure I can get back safely without making you too nauseous. But okay, and I'll turn my light back on. Once again, we're finished a little touch early, but that's okay. Now, I did say, though, this would be a great time for question and answers. And I know some of you might need to run, but otherwise, I think, but yeah, we lost our Bonnie. That's okay. And art by Nancy Lynn. Hey there, hon. So good to see you. Nancy Lynn is so, oh gosh. Nancy Lynn, what is your show's name? It's in my head, but it's stuck right now. But okay, so I'm just going to pull out my iron and I'm going to try to work this thing through. And if any of you know of a better way to try to do this, feel free to tell me. So Euphoria, is that Nancy Lynn? Yes, So Euphoria. Great. I tried to remember Nancy, but you know, you reach a certain age and it gets harder and harder to find that right word. I never forget. I just can't always bring it out on time, right on cue, you know. So, so you're now art by Nancy Lynn, then I bet. That's wonderful. We'll remember that. That is great. So what I'm doing is making the bias stem. And to me, I thought the easiest way, and it sounded good at the time, is just to iron it in half, then stitch it with a small seam allowance, then roll the seam allowance to the back. That way, when you put it on the fabric, you've got a nice smooth edge. I'm going to hand applique this. And then I've got to take the pattern page, which will show, this is what I have problems with. Let me show you. Paint your pistachio shells. And, hi, Betty Meisner. And, that's neat. That is neat. Yeah. I one time made a straw wreath and covered it in real acorns. It was the heaviest thing. And then when the acorns dried, they all fell out of the little bottom part of the show. Oh, bye, Ann. So good seeing you. Okay, let's see. Okay, now what I'm trying to do is see, I've got this slanted seam. And when I get to that part, I got past it. Y'all are my lucky charm. So I'm going to bring this over. Okay. Let me see what I can do. All right, there we go. So I'm going to sit here, and if you have any questions or if you have a bone to pick with me, okay, I can handle it. And I'm just going to sit and work on this. And by using this ironing stick like this, I want to have a nice crisp edge on the top. But even when I've pulled the stick out of that seam, go back and iron it extra crisp. And it's always good doing something like this it's always very good to use starch on something to make it just a little more firm and rigid. It holds the creases better. Okay, I'm back at another seam, and I've just got to try to figure out how to get, well, I almost had it. Don't ever do a job like this if you're in a little bit of an impatient mood, because boy, you'll say some words you had thought you had forgotten. Let me try to press this. I think I've about got it through. Now, let's say you really get this hung up and you can't move it forwards and you can't move it backwards. What do? If you're really desperate, I would just take a seam ripper, open up the seam, take it out. So the bias strip. Hi, thanks for asking, Nancy. I will show you. I'm trying to finish my UFOs because I have too many. And this is for the Alex Anderson Neutrals quilt that I started 2 years ago. And so I'm making the bias stem for the outer border for the flowers. And somewhere in this, I bought the pattern, and somewhere in here, I think one of the last pages, okay, this is just a template to kind of show you our layout. Then here it is. It comes with, here we go. And these are the templates for the flowers. This is the scale. This is always very important. If you download a PDF file and print it, always measure. Get out your ruler and measure. And this says it's 2 inches. And it is. It is right there at 2 inches. And the reason they tell you to measure that is because sometimes when we print something out, the printer might try to print to fit and squish it in. And if it does, then your template's going to be off. All of these would be off. So if you see something like that, do what they said. Then here is the pattern that I'm going to use somewhere. What did I do? I put I don't see them right now, but I did put the outer borders. I just have the white fabric, and I have to then lay the white fabric on top using a chalk marker. I will mark the shape of the stems. So this is the first UFO that I will be finishing. Wait a minute. I think I put it right back in the bag. And here, see, sometimes I'm so organized that I just surprise myself. Here are my borders and pre-cut to the right length. Let's hope it holds up. And then what I would do is either on a bright window or using a light box, I will lay the fabric on this pattern like this, starting at the top, and I will trace the line for my stems, my flower stems. So that's pretty easy, and they were right here the whole time. You know what I'll do once I'm off our show, I'll lay these out, draw them. Well, I've got a nice long drawing space to use. And so I thought, since I finished early, whoever wants to still hang around, we can chat. Feel free to ask questions. I'm pretty much an open book, so feel free to ask me just about anything. And all right, I got it past that tricky, I think. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, I got it past that tricky every time you get to one of those, which reminds me, stitch this with shorter stitches next time, when I sew the angles, because I made this using that square method. Do it with a shorter stitch length so I can then trim the seam allowance so that when I make it like this, when I use this pressing rod, it won't get hung up as easily on the seam allowance. Oh, thank you, Marcia. If you have to go, don't worry, sweetie. In fact, I need to email Miss Marcia and see how things, I think she said her and her son were working on the house. So she always does such an absolutely beautiful job of welcoming everyone. I call her our hostess with the mostest. So, but this is pretty much how you do a bias trim for a stem. And the time spent working on this is going to be well worth it when it comes time. And I like to do my applique by hand because it's a quiet, peaceful activity for the long winter evenings, or even some of the hot summer ones where I stay in the air conditioning. And that way I can binge watch off of BritBox or Acorn or Netflix, and I can binge watch and just sew to my heart's content. But every time I get to one of these seam allowances, I just have to back up a little and try to twist it a little so I don't necessarily put the point right in that seam allowance. So it just takes patience, I guess. And that's not always my forte, but I got it through each time. Now that I'm talking with y'all, it's gotten a whole lot easier. The other day, I was so frustrated, I just ripped a seam open and pulled it out and started again. But this is working good. You have to make sure that you make the casing wide enough to run this through. You're working on the quilt show. Oh, good for you. Please send us photos. We would love to have your work in our show and tell, hon. Oh, I bet you it's beautiful. Yeah, I was watching Alex Anderson recently, and she had 2 people who had entered their quilts in a quilt show that they learned. Oh, Garden Down Under. I love that one. In fact, I think our Jody might have been working on Garden Down Under. Oh, so, and Betty, I'd love to see more work from you, sweetie. You are very talented. So if it's something you finished a while back, it doesn't even have to be brand new. Just something we haven't seen before, because I tell you, I think everybody will agree, we get inspired by looking at your work. And it makes us feel happy, because staying inspired is a very good thing. In fact, I've come to the conclusion that I've got to work on this room this week. I get so involved in sewing. Oh, 1/4-inch bias stems. Wow. Oh, good for you, Lisa. Good for you. Yep, I think you'd be terrific at that. It's a lot of fun. One thing it helps me. I'm kind of a homebody, and especially during the pandemic, it was so nice to have people to meet with and chat with and get to know when we were stuck at home. But it keeps me being very active creatively. And I have produced more in the last 4 or 5 years than out in my whole prior 15. So it's been a very good thing. And this year I'm slowing down. Last year I did 36. I touched on at least 36 different projects. And I thought, okay, that's probably pushing it. There's only 52 weeks in a year and 36 things. Oh, please. So what I'm doing this year is I'm going to try to introduce maybe half as many new ones, but cover UFOs, which I thought, you know what? That's still, there's lots I can teach while I'm working on a UFO. Like right here, teaching how do you make bias stems. I have tried making bias stems using a bias tape maker. I have tried doing it where I fold the pieces towards each other, like doing a double fold. And I had a woman say, no, just take and iron them in half, stitch close to the seam, then use something like this to roll that seam allowance to the back and then iron. And I thought, how about that? Yay. So, oh, I know it's hard to remember. And you know what? I knew the pictures dropped off, but I also knew it was because summer is busy and all of that. Oh, and did y'all hear Ricky Timms is selling he already sold his business in Colorado, and now he's been given a vacate order because the business is changing, because he kept a little bit of space upstairs, but he's also decided to sell his ranch. And he thinks he'll buy smaller houses, one in the U.S. and one in Portugal, because that's where his husband's from. And that way they can split their time between the U.S. and Portugal. but I wish him well. I understand the desire. I mean, what is it, like a 49-acre ranch? That's a lot of work. And, he has heart trouble, and there's not a whole lot they can do with it. And because he's already had the bypass a lot of years ago. But anyway, but I don't blame him. I mean, I think he and I are the same age. And you know what? There's no way I could take care of a ranch. No way. In fact, Mark and I now talk about downsizing, not having a big yard to take care of. And I said, honestly, if I just have some pots on a deck, I'm more than happy. I don't, I'd like him to build me some raised planters so I can grow just a few vegetables. But I would love not having a whole house to take care of. In fact, last week I vacuumed twice. I vacuumed once and I told Mark, I don't know what's with that vacuum, but it didn't hardly pick up anything. Well, he found it had a huge blockage in it. And so it wasn't picking up. I remember going over a little tiny piece of a leaf 4 times to get the vacuum to pick it up. So I ended up vacuuming the house twice. He got the blockage out, got it all cleaned up, and I said, okay, got to do it again. And the next time he got a whole lot of stuff out. With 3 dogs, I knew it had to. Now here's where I sewed a little too close to the edge. But as long as I just keep that folded, that will be fine. And when I hand stitch it down, I'll make sure that it's the same width and it's all good. I'm so glad y'all are staying with me while I do this because, like I say, this kind of stuff gets boring to me and I have a hard time doing boring things. So I appreciate this. Like, don't even talk to me when I'm doing my taxes. Oh my goodness. I'm not a pleasant person when I'm doing taxes. So what's going on with y'all? So we know that Nancy Lynn has a new name for her shop. And we know that Lisa is working on doing her own channel. And we're all hoping that she and I get to make the Alaska quilt. And Mardell had to contact me about something last week. I was so tempted to say, did Lisa and I get in the class? But she doesn't let us know until November. And I thought, no, it's not fair to ask for special privileges. But, I would love to know. But either way, I'm not going to worry about it because Lisa and I have decided we want to make that Alaska quilt, and we're going to do it. I'll never forget when Diana Wright was an active member, and she made that. Oh, you got an embellishment machine. Ooh, I would love to see what that does and everything. You'll have to send us a picture if you have a moment. Man. So I'm at another junction. Yep, Lisa, we're going to make it. We are determined. And see, that's the kind of quilt, like the heart one we did last year. You need a lot of encouragement to finish all of those half and quarter square triangles. Oh, boy. Just like working on this, I need a lot of encouragement to keep from throwing this across the room. I would love to know what an embellishing machine. I've heard of felting machines, and I was thinking the other day, we're so lucky. I've been quilting since the late 80s, right close to 1990. And, when I learned, we didn't know about rotary cutters, about cutting mats. We didn't know, we had templates. And so strip piecing was a whole world away from us at that point. So I look around at all of the fun tools and products that I now adore. And I feel like the luckiest person in the world. Just our fabrics are so nice. When we used to, oh, there you go. Okay, Nancy, now I know what that is. Yeah, because if it's like a felting machine, then you can lay trims and stuff on your quilt, run the felting machine needle over it, and it will kind of like embed it in your fabric. That's fabulous. My daughter does hand felting. She's a hand felted artist. And I asked her one time if she ever wanted a machine, but she said she likes doing it by hand. I guess she has a better feel for it. So, I'm getting frustrated. See, around y'all, I have to be pleasant. I can't start saying bad words. Sometimes it really gets caught up. Oh, no, no. And you know what? I would like to think at some point this year, I start working on my moon glow quilt. I've had that pattern for 23 years. I think it's time for me to start making. I have the whole kit, all the fabric and everything. I just have to make it. Maybe I can talk Sonia into nagging me to get me to make it, because Sonia and I both love Jenny Beyer. And if anybody can get through to me and say, Deb, when are you going to make it? I bet you it's her. Miss Sonia's got a lot more self-discipline than I do. I admire that too. I always say when I grow up, but then it's like, well, I think at some point I have to admit I'm about as grown up as I'm going to get. You bought a Jen Kingwell long time gone quilt pattern. Ooh, I'm going to have to look at that. Oh yeah, yeah. To be able to, that's hard on your hands, isn't it? I'm having that problem myself. It's like at some point I have to face that my hands aren't up to what they used to be able to do. And I always tease, I go to bed with my carpal tunnel brace on and finger cuts for this. Look at that poor finger. For this, I can't close it further than that. That's it. And then this one gets hung up, that trigger finger thing it does. And I said, oh, I just must be a sight, when I'm sleeping, and got all my braces and things on. What are you going to do? But I keep telling myself, as long as I wake up on the right side of the dirt, it's a good day. Yeah, I am going to look up that quilt and see what she's working on. Be thinking about Michelle Lang, everybody. She's having about 6 months worth of treatments, and we miss her. We think about her every day. We want her to get well. So if this one keeps giving me trouble, I might have to open that seam. I'm going to go ahead and do it. I mean, how many times are you going to try to get it through before you give up? All right. Deb is giving up. Okay. Pull a few stitches out. Thank goodness for seam rippers. Seam rippers, pencil erasers. We couldn't do without those. And see what I can do where I opened up that seam. But a touch more. There we go. And I'll show you this end. I showed you the other end. This end has a point, which is supposed to make it easier to go through. But every once in a while, it'll get hung up on the seam allowance. See that seam allowance? I wish. I'm going to trim it now. I mean, it's kind of the cow's out of the barn, but I'm going to still trim it now. Okay. Mark told me the funniest statement today. We were talking about how computers and computer programs can seem so human. And we were thinking about the Mars rover that finally got too old and the battery was dying. And somebody had programmed it to say, when it was almost dead, to say, I'm getting cold, or it's getting cold. And I'm like, oh no. And he said, yeah, he said, those machines, they don't know that somebody programs them. And he said when he was early on working on programs, and because, you know, he last lived for a long time in Dallas, Texas, he said somebody had programmed when it kind of hit the wall and the program wouldn't work anymore, that it would say, stop pumping, or no, stop now. You're just pumping mud, or something like that. I forget exactly how he said it, but it was so cute, meaning, and good old Texas talk for meaning, the oil has run dry in that well. If you're pumping mud, just stop. Oh, I love that idea. Minka, who wants to give her tips of working with Minky? I've been too afraid to work with Minky. I would say it's probably fine until the quilting part. But boy, I've heard it is a joy to snuggle under. Thank you, Miss Marcia. You're the sweetest thing. You know what? I'm going to take a minute and I want to look. I'm going to see if I can show y'all this. Jen Kingwell's Long Time Gone pattern. Okay. Jen Kingwell's Long Time Gone pattern. Oh, that's beautiful, sweetie. I'm going to get ready and show you guys. Oh, oh man. Now see, this is where our Jody is something else. She is not afraid of scrappy quilts. This quilt would petrify me. I used to look at people doing the Dear Jane quilts and things, you know, the farmer's daughter and all that. Oh my God. This is awesome, but that would scare me to death. But that is what our Jody is going to get ready to do. Oh, it's gorgeous. I see quilts like that on the quilt show, not even that much, not even that complex. And I think that would be nice, but I don't have the kind of brain to be able to follow that much. And, you know, every time our Bonnie Hunter comes up with one of her blocks of the month or blocks of the week, I'm like, it's beautiful, but oh my gosh, I couldn't handle that. So anyway, I'm going to go back to this, but that's beautiful, Jody. Amazing. That is going to be your, what do they call it? Magnum opus. I mean, that's amazing. Sometimes I say to Mark, hey, do you want to help me do this? He's like, no way. No, it's just not something he could do. And I don't blame him. Right now, I should have had him. I asked him, I said, would you be willing to teach the ladies how to, you know, because I was worried I was going to have trouble. But he said, I don't want to talk on a show, but I bet you I could get him to make a video. Because I know that there are people out there just as afraid of the computer as I am. He said, you're so afraid of a computer, but what do? You start a YouTube channel. It's like, I know. It's kind of, it's a strange, ironic thing, isn't it? What in the world was that? I just heard a big sound. I wonder what in the world happened. Hopefully it wasn't anything too scary. Okay. You know what? I don't blame you, Jody. Give you lots. And you know what? I would if I got over my fear of doing those kind of quilts, I'd probably love it. Because if you get bored making half square triangles, you switch to something else. I know, it was making me wonder. I think it was outside, like a gun going off or something. Unless, something fell over upstairs. I can't tell which one it is. But hopefully Mark will be home from his bike ride soon, and then I don't have to worry because he'll go chase away all the boogeymans. Okay. I think I'm going to manage to get this done. Y'all are such good people to keep me company at this. We'll have to do something like that for y'all. If one of y'all gets a part that's tricky and you want some company while you're working on it, you let us know. We'll do a jitsi and help you get through it. Nancy Lynn, I'd love to ask you a question. And if you don't want to answer it, then please just state that. And I will apologize, no problem. But do you have a vision problem? I've noticed in some of your photos that you have a cane, and I didn't know. And the reason I'm asking is because you do such beautiful work. And even having a vision problem would just mean you are even bigger hero to me. But you don't have to answer. It's your privacy. Oh. Well, you are something else, hon. You are something else. Because I've been thinking that ever since I saw the first picture of you with a cane, and I thought, that dear woman does all of this, even with some vision problems, and I am in awe. Way to go, hon. Oh, really? Oh, thank you for sharing that, hon. I had a friend who had a retinal disease and she was losing her sight, and it broke our heart. She had such a good attitude, but wow. Well, aren't you something? Now I just love you all the more. Yeah, aren't we proud of her? I mean, wow, we've got some amazing ladies in this group. I was telling Mark one time, I said, the older I get, the more I admire and love women because they are troopers. Nothing stops them. Nothing slows them down. Fantastic. Oh, our Jody has been my hero. I have lots of heroes in this group. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Because that way, you know, when my sciatica is bothering me, I can say, Deb, get over yourself, girlfriend. Nobody said growing old was going to be easy. But as a doctor one time told me, it's better than the alternative. And I said, yes. Oh, yes. Definitely do not miss seeing your eye doctor, because people just don't realize. Poor Miss Bonnie struggled last year with her eyes. Guess what, guys? I got all the way through this bias stem. Isn't that great? So now I'm going, oh, I just thought of something. Ha ha. Hold on. I think I have another one. Here we go. Ta-da! Another use for a toilet paper roll. I love this. So I'm going to take a piece of tape to help me start it. And that way, when I'm working on it, instead of having yards and yards, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for allowing me to ask. I've been wanting to, but I thought, you know, she might not appreciate it, but good for you. Wow. Aw. You know what? You remind me of myself, Marcia. Everything with me is a quote from a movie. You know, I'm real big on quoting movie. You can't handle the truth. Oh my gosh. Or I love you more than my luggage. So, movies can be so wonderful. So, well, I'm so glad I did ask. Sometimes I think, Deb, you're too nosy. You're too nosy. But it's just because I really do care. And I'm like, wow, that woman enters quilts and shows and everything. She's amazing. Fantastic, sweetheart. So anyway, I just heard today on NPR, I was listening to it before I came on, that the movie that Mark and I tried to go see called Mystery in Venice, it is a Agatha Christie, but it was Halloween something is the real name of it. It was not set in Venice, and it was not named Mystery in Venice. So Kenneth Branagh wanted to do another movie to follow up his most recent Agatha Christie. And so he hit upon this one. But I'm afraid this one, at least from what Mark and I saw, I don't think he's going to get a hit out of this one. Murder in the Orient Express, and I think there was one other he did, and they were pretty good. But this one, I don't know. I think there's not enough mystery and a little too much talking. Now, it might help if we can understand what they're saying and there's better lighting. So hopefully the movie theater will correct that. We brought it to their attention. And, but, oh, goodness. You're so funny, Marcia. So now I am rolling up all of this. This is a great way. I usually, with my bindings and stuff, I'll roll them up and put a rubber band or pin them or something. But it really helps because you've done all that ironing and you've pressed them to be in good condition. And then if you just scrunch them all up, well, you've lost that. So, in fact, right here where I had done it earlier, because it wasn't properly prepped, it kind of got all wonky. So I had to press it again. But it's so much easier to stitch it on if all you have to do is lay it on and pin it onto the fabric. So, all righty. As soon as I wrap this up, I think I'll say good night and go figure out what we're going to do for dinner. And the problem with winding it up, it starts getting very twisted. You're a dear heart. I am. Nancy Lynn, you're something else, girlfriend. Oh. Oh, almost done. Any questions you might have? We're going to keep up every week doing some fun decoration, whether it's for Halloween or I don't think I'm going to do anything for Thanksgiving, but Christmas, if someone here has a different religion that they would like us to do something for, I would love to. And all right, there it is. I wish I had measured how many yards, but it's a good amount. It's amazing how much you can get out of a square of fabric. So I've shown that on a show somewhere. I'm still going to do my short snips of sewing techniques, because that way you can just go and search how to do this and just see what you want to see. So that would be nice. I'm still planning on it. Just got to get to it. All righty. I think I'm going to say goodbye then and take out my borders and sit here before I go up and eat. But once I eat, I'm going to sit on the couch and that's it. But I'm going to lay these out and take the pattern and draw the line on them. And that way, it's so nice to have 65 inches to work on. So 2 yards at a time, that's a good deal. And I hope you have a great week. I hope you have a great week. And I hope to get out in the yard. I want to plant some spinach seeds because it's getting late. Better hurry. Oh, I even have some kale. I make a soup called caldo verde, and it's Portuguese, and it means green soup, and it needs lots of kale. So I'm hoping to get outside a little bit, stretch my sciatica out a little, and I'll have to do it little bits at a time. But, and I better put this away because I'm never going to get this room clean if I don't learn to start putting, this end, put everything away. That is Mark is so good at that. And it's one of the best habits you can learn. Put it back away, and then you know right where it'll be the next time you need to use it. Hey, good care. Y'all are the best. Nancy Lynn, thank you for trusting us with that. Y'all are amazing. Jody, I'm in awe of the quilt you're going to start. That's going to be such a wonderful journey. And it's so good. It's so good to see I know what the dogs want now. They say it's dinner time. So Dad's not back yet. I'm going to have to go feed him. Take good care. I'll see you Thursday night for some more of our portrait quilt. And hopefully I'll have all of my pieces drawn out and my fabric selected. All right. Take great care. Take good care of yourself. You can't take care of anyone else unless you take care of yourself first. Bye-bye.